Talkin Nerdy. It's Talkin Nerdy. It's Talkin Nerdy. They're talking nerdy. They're talking nerdy. They're talking nerdy.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of Talkin Nerdy, which obviously most of my audience knows me from my Outside of the Box podcast. And this is a little dip into some other, different realms of things that, are interesting. And of course, D&D and just all other things nerdy is a big part of that. So when I had to consider who am I going to have on the show? Amy Vorpahl, like that, you were a no-brainer of somebody
Cool.
that I would want to have on and come, just kind of chat about this stuff. So welcome to the show.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. Episode 2A. I didn't realize it was the second episode.
Yes, we are just getting things kicked off. Although I will say this is probably like episode 150 something collectively of everything that I've done. So
Sounds like it. Yeah. Well, congratulations either way.
yes, well, thank you. But I was really excited to, get the opportunity to have you on because I think that, you're somebody that in everything that I've seen you do, I love kind of your approach to like, doing things like the nerdy music and, like all of that. So it's just a different twist on, something that we all know and love, but to kind of put it in song form, that's like pure bard work there.
Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think D&D just inspires a whole bunch of creativity. I think especially like other art forms, like it is storytelling. And then I can't count the number of times at a table that a person will show up with a poem they've written or a menu they've made, or a song even, or art that they like literal, drawing art. So I just love the medium because it is in itself art and it inspires even more art. So win-win.
Yes, definitely. Now, one thing that I want to bring up, lots of people talk about the great DMs that are out there. And of course, Matt Mercer and Brennan Lee Mulligan are both fantastic and they deserve every bit of credit that they get. But you, Amy Vorpahl, you are a very skilled DM and have done quite a bit of that. And I think that, you should absolutely be in that conversation.
Oh, thank you so much.
What do you like? What do you find the most rewarding and engaging about being a DM? I mean, because it's very different from when you're just playing in the game.
It is very different. The most rewarding thing I think is that there's no waiting, like I think that's the most addictive thing is that not only are you building the world and everyone's playing in it, so you're kind of guiding the ship, but also in the gameplay itself, you can kind of black hole for 4.5 hours and then come out the other side and be like, what just happened? Whereas, that's only one really mechanical answer to your question, but as a player, like there are times to not tune out, but like there are times when the spotlight's not on you, you can relax a little. There is some waiting, like figuring out what you're going to do next, and arguably like you are connected to the game and everything. But to be a DM, it's like it's exhausting in the best way, like you are running, you're jogging a marathon the whole time, and you have to be able to roll with the punches. It's like so challenging to, I guess, get to improvise with everybody and prepare everything and then not play that. And the challenge in itself is so rewarding, I would say. It's just like one of the, I guess, why not? I recently did my first stand-up show ever. And I was like, this is what DMing is. Like you are writing, you are performing, you have nowhere to hide. What the game is you, like you can't be like, oh, I'm performing something someone else wrote, and if it's bad, it's probably the writing, or you're the writer and someone's performing, and if it's bad, you can be like, it's probably the performance that's bad, like for better or worse. If it's, you can't blame anybody. This is you, and it's so raw and revealing. So I tend to like things that are a little more challenging, not to mention, oh my gosh. And then the knowledge piece of it is just like holding the knowledge of the game in your head the entire time and knowing that there's usually a mechanic for something. They've probably thought of it, or knowing that even if there isn't a mechanic for it, it's time for you to come up with a mechanic and make this fun and playable and have a benefit or a consequence really immediately. I guess the biggest reward is just being the source, like you're the source of the game, you're the source of connection and friendship, you're the source of joy, you're the source of fun. In my last game that I'm DMing, we have a code, like I made us come up with a code of intentional, like authentic words that we wanted to have at our table, and we say it every time. And the words that we all collectively came together were, joy, empathy, I think connection, joy, empathy, connection, maybe something else. But the last one was hijinks. And it was like, oh yeah. And then there's just like plain old silliness. So you're also a source of silliness and stinker mentality. So I just to be the source of really childlike play is really rewarding too. And just knowing that everyone had a great time and everyone's leaving going, oh, I got to play, like in it's all senses of the word. And it was because in no small part of you.
Yes, definitely. It's funny because you mentioned about like the different aspects of DMing, and sometimes you get to be the person who maybe makes something happen in the game that the players don't enjoy. And I mean, they can certainly throw it back at you, but at the same time, I think the vast amount of people who play D&D respect the game enough that they're not going to be like, just do something that's really not nice or try and throw the game off intentionally. Because I mean, I think any DM would be upset if somebody just like did something dumb to set the course off on like a really bad path. Because I played with people like that just do things to be kind of a chaos agent.
Oh yeah, I see what you're saying. I really haven't played with, I don't think I've played with anyone who's, intentionally been, when I say stinker, I mean, the tongue-in-cheek version, not the like butthole, they're like, it's always been in service of character or story. And sometimes it is at the whim, at the demise of my actual plans. But it's like, ooh, actually though, yeah, like that's what you should do. Like that character wouldn't have, put up with this and would have avoided it at all cost or whatever. And so when I say stinker, it's more of like a mischievous hijinks, like impish quality that is pretty enjoyable.
Yes, there is a difference between that and just like causing chaos for the sake of causing chaos.
Yeah, contrarian activity, exactly.
Exactly. Yeah. Another thing that I wanted to ask is because, I don't really know that much about how you came to D&D in the first place. And I think like all of us have their own way of doing it. What was very interesting for me is that when I was younger, I was involved in something, that I haven't seen a lot of, which is a more written format of D&D where everybody's not in the same room, but everybody is collectively collaborating to a story and like send in your writing piece and this person sends in their writing piece and the DM essentially like melds it all together.
Oh
and
my God.
It was never called D&D, but then after I like looked back on it, when somebody was like, have you ever played D&D? And I'm like, no. And then I like explained this game and they're like, no, you absolutely played a form of D&D, just not the way that most people think of it.
Was it a forum?
It was like a message board. Well, back in the day when
I did that. No, I did that too. No one was curating it really though. That's the one thing that got a little messy because we were all playing as if we were maybe it's the same, but we were people who could also turn into wolves, and people would write in, and you were supposed to write in like a certain amount of paragraphs or words, but some people would go a little nuts, and then they would start being like, okay, well, in this battle, here's everything that happened, and here's what the other characters were doing too, and you shouldn't have done that, but everyone was doing it. And so I would have to go in and go like, no, you don't have control over my wolf character, my wolf wouldn't have done that. And then like I think my name was feminine in nature, and so like they would be like, and she looks at him with these like sultry wolf eyes, and I'm like, no, she effing does not. Like my wolf is out there fighting too. I'm not distracted by your wolf, and so that was in college. And you're right, I never put two and two together that was, do you know what I mean? Like it was very prose. Like you write it in prose, there is dialogue, but then like some people can just like take the helm because it's the Wild West, and you're like, hey, give me back the helm, at least for my character.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm going to do something like that, I prefer to at least have control over what my character is doing. Everybody else can do whatever they
Well,
want
that
to.
those were the rules. I remember, like, those were the rules. And then these people, but I also get it. Like, I mean, looking back, it's kind of like, well, if you wanted your character to do one thing, and I mean, even at D&D at the table, it's kind of like, oh, in 6 seconds. But you want to move the forward, and you want to be like, oh, but this is what I see for my character at the end of this battle, like they're gonna feel a certain way. Then you do have to kind of guide at least the battle. And then how do you not include other characters in that? Like, did they just not participate? Because verbs happen fast, you know, like you could just say, we fought and killed the monster. Like that's a full sentence. That could have taken 5 hours, but verbs are like, you know, he died, you know, like it can be very quick. And so to stretch it out. Anyway, whatever. I haven't thought about that in ages, Christine. That is a blast from the past.
Yes, I'm glad that I could make you recollect
What was your setting? Because ours were like people, wolves. It wasn't quite werewolves. It was like more the like shape changing kind of situation. I don't know more than that, but the wolves were all horny. That's all I remember. It was such a horny little story.
It was, I know our version of the story was called Orc Pit, and it was like surrounding and, you know, an inn essentially, probably very similar to like Red Dragon Inn type of situation. That's where the main central hub of everything was. And then the characters would just go off and do like whatever in that general area. But yeah, it was so different than, you know, what I see with D&D today, but still just a very unique way of telling a story. Because at the very least, in this case, the DM would take everybody's input and essentially craft a story together. So by the end, you just had this one long story that's like essentially narrated by the person who's the DM and kind of put it all together.
That sounds a little more cohesive, to be honest.
But, you know, aside from that, like in your beginnings, you know, what were some of the things that you kind of got into?
I mean, I was always a fantasy novel reader, still am. And when I went to college, my first day, my cousin, who had already been there a year, brought a friend over. They took one look at my dorm room that I had decorated with no fewer than 11 Lord of the Rings posters and one like Yoda mosaic Star Wars poster. And they knew I was an acting major, and they were just like, have I got the game for you? And it was either we played D&D either that night or the following afternoon, and I cannot remember which one, but it was like within 24 hours I was playing D&D, and then it was a short jump to just being like absolutely addicted. We started with 3.5 edition, and the rest is history. So I was 18. Was I 18? Yeah, I was. I was 18. Holy cow. Yeah. So it's been 20 years.
Similar for me. But yeah, I mean, and it's kind of interesting that was like back at that time, that was something that like, at least in my circle, you would be like, people wouldn't think you were cool for being into it. And now I feel like today it's a much different conversation, especially with having, you know, like
you wear this shirt and people are like, hi, I'm your friend now. And you're like, probably, yeah, what's up? You know, we like the same thing. You're like of an ilk, you know, and it's chill and cool. It's not toxic either. So that's great.
Right, exactly. I mean, because I went to Gen Con this year, and there were more people, I think, at Gen Con than any other convention that I've ever been to. Like, there were just so many people, and it was insane.
I love Gen Con because I say like the Comic Cons you go there to see things or people, and then buy things. And Gen Con is very much it's a gaming convention, right? So you go there to do things, and even the things that are there to buy, it's like, I'm going to buy this so that I can play it with my friends. So you're just there to play, and paint minis, and like there's just things that you do, and even the things that you see are in service of doing the things. So it's like really addictive to just go there and be like, oh, and then all the samples, like you go to the booths and it's like, okay, here's the 10-minute version of our game, and you're like, okay, and you just play a bunch of games all day, and small long versions of them, whatever. It's so fun. So I hope you had a really great experience.
I did. It was I actually the whole reason, well, not the only reason I went there, but a big part of the reason that I went there was that Sandeep and they were all doing the like reveal of Daisy Quest and stuff like that.
Yes.
And being a backer, you know, I had the opportunity to kind of go to like their little launch party, and that was amazing. Like to see so
Oh,
many
cool.
people supporting that project, and you can tell
Yeah.
how much it means to like every one of them. So it was just a really cool experience to get to be part of that.
Dang. Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome that brought you to Gen Con, because yeah, that's an awesome project and also a really aligned convention as well.
Yes, yes, for sure. And now it's like once you go to Gen Con once, then it's like, okay, well, next year I guess I have to go for the whole 4 days because there's too much stuff to see.
Yes, exactly. Oh, they gotcha.
Yes, exactly. Now another thing that I wanted to kind of get into is not only just the D&D aspect, but just improv in general. You know, because you've done quite a bit of that. And the funny thing that I wanted to ask you about is because I mean, I'm pretty sure by now you know that on Dropout, you're notorious for on breaking news being the loser. And I
Yes.
swear every time I watch, I'm like, please, Amy, please, just this one time.
Hold it together. Yeah, I think I have not lost at least once, and I will not lose again. But yes, I love that that's kind of turned into a bit of like in a small way, you know, it's a very niche crowd, but in a small way that's like how I'm quote known, because I say like there are way worse ways to be known on the internet than just being generally delightful and delighted. So it's like, oh, I went to a con this last week, and a lot of people introduced themselves to me, and yeah, between like mostly through the Dropout stuff. And it was like, oh, a lot of delightful people and who were delighted. And it's just like, yeah, like laughing and being joyful is how people know me. And so when they come up to me or whatever, like that's the vibe. And I think it's like earnest, you know, like I feel like that is a big part of who I am, is just yeah, laughing a lot. So I get that from, you know, even you know, strangers or people who know me from the internet, and there's just some vibe of like, oh, I'm also pretty delightful and I laugh a lot, and there's just a lot of smiles. So it's a cool way to be, to yeah, attract those like-minded people. It's neat.
I would think it would be a really big challenge though, because I mean, with so many people on there that are very funny people, you know, being around them. I mean, for me, I think that's the reason why I've always struggled to do improv, because I tend to get so like entertained by what everybody else
Oh
is doing that
yeah.
it's hard for me to like concentrate and like not lose it. You know, so I would think that would be difficult.
Oh yeah. I mean, I somehow don't know how some people keep it together. And this is canon. So Katie Maravich and I have never been on a breaking news episode together. And I will say that that's because they're freaking cowards. But yeah, that's a little bit of lore for you. But yeah, it is. I mean, and the teleprompters, I mean, the scripts are written to make you laugh. I think I got I don't know, I'm a giggly lady, but like in improv and D&D, like there's a switch. You'd be fine. Like if you turn the switch and your scene partners are actually there to keep it together. The breaking news castmates, everyone knows, oh, if someone's breaking, you egg them on, you make them break even harder. Like, you know what I mean? They're trying to get you to lose. So it's a good environment for that. But in like a committed scene or like some role play, like the switch flips. I've kept it together enough to be an actor for as long as I have, but no one would know based on breaking news.
See, though, now that I know this fact, I'm like, Sam Reich, you do it. You make it happen and put Amy and Katie on the same show.
I know, we feel the same way.
Yeah, and I mean, really, you know, just being part of Dropout in general, like because I know it was just, you know, like announced today, not, you know, I'm sure people were aware of it, but Dropout being around for 5 years and all of that, and like that's huge. And I will
Yeah.
say as a fan that like for me, I grew up watching Saturday Night Live, like obsessively. My parents probably hated it, but I would stay up until like after midnight and watch every episode every weekend. But I truly believe that the content that Dropout is putting out is better than anything that SNL has ever done.
Yeah, I agree. They're really their mission statement is so clear, and also they're just keeping up with what is actually going on, I guess, right now, with the short form content as well. Like Game Changer was built to answer the TikTok algorithm. And it was like, we're going to make a show that's going to be extremely easy to clip out for TikTok and get viewers that way. And it like worked, and they're just geniuses. Like, and, I mean, not to mention they're so creative and so funny and talented and cute and like charismatic, but like the brains that go into it too, they're like the smartest people that I know. Like you just pick any one of them and you're like, dang, that brain on you, holy cow. Like seriously, it's like I'm humbled to be a part of them, and like even in a small way. So yeah.
That is very awesome. Now aside from that, because I would say between that and the various like streaming shows where you've DM'd and things like that, that's probably where I've seen you the most. But
Yeah.
Currently, what other like projects are you working on, or things that you have going on in the future?
I'm doing a lot of different things right now. It's kind of a transition period for me. I'm trying to figure out what's next, just because also with the strikes going on, it was like a real eye-opener to go, oh, the way that things have been and with the things I've relied on for income, it's so dependent on the entertainment industry, and the entertainment industry working very systematically and smoothly. And so it's been, I mean, I know I'm not the first to say that the last few years have been a little tricky. So I guess the short answer is nothing really to announce. I'm figuring it out just like everyone else. And I'm going to try to like start my own business that maybe isn't so dependent on the entertainment industry, because I think that'll always be there. I'll always love gigging. I'll always love writing and acting, and those gigs will still show up for me, which I know I'm really, really lucky for that. And there is a part of me that, as I'm getting older, I do just want to have a lot of control over cracking a nut every month. It's not exciting, but it is like, it's true, like that's where I'm at, is like figuring it out along with the rest of the entire country, maybe the entire world, is like, okay, like this is all fun and games, and I really love it, and I'm so grateful for it, and I'm going to keep doing it forever. And as far as creativity, like I keep writing. I'm writing long form narrative stuff, movies and TV, and it still is dependent on if I get hired. And I just want something where I'm not dependent on that. Like I still crave it. I want my voice and my art out there, but I also want to build a future that is secure for myself. And I think my art, actually my creativity and art will benefit from that, where it's not so contingent and dependent. Like art, you must pay my bills, and then when it's not totally responsible for that, I can just be a lot freer. I was dabbling earlier in this year, like uploading some reels and trying that out, which I hadn't really done in a minute. Some comedy, but also some lifestyle stuff, and that was really fun. So I'll probably keep doing that. And it was like, yeah, I learned a lot. I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. That's something I could put my time into. And then I did a stand-up class. So like, I'm not going to stop anytime soon. Like the creative career for me has always, I mean, I've gotten paid exclusively from entertainment. Sorry, you didn't ask this, but why not? This is what's on my mind. Like, just not to be so mercenary about it, but it's very much on my mind, especially with the strikes. Like, dang, like I know I'm not the only person who's like, this has been my livelihood. And if the entertainment stops, slows down, completely shifts and changes, I'm gonna have to figure it out. And so I do have other passions that I want to like maximize on, or spread, or like have a voice about. So I'm going on and on. I feel maybe that was too much. Should I just stop talking? Like, oh my
honestly,
God,
like I think it's interesting, because I mean, maybe people take for granted and think that people are on TV or people are on YouTube, and like hey, like, they're all good and they don't have to worry about anything. But I mean,
Oh
realistically,
yeah.
that's not the case at all.
It really isn't. I mean, this is my apartment. You can see all the dragons. Who knows what's going to happen once, the work, we're going to start working again with writing and acting. But yeah, it's one of those like, okay, cool. Like that's why I'm like, all right, well, maybe my business brain, it's starting to kick in where I just want to have a little more control over what the income is. And like I said, again, too, the art being responsible for your livelihood is a tricky game, and some can crack it. And I think even those who have cracked it are it's still an uncertain game. Not to I mean, entrepreneurship is as well, but am I going to have a vulnerability hangover? I don't know. It's just, that's what it is. I guess I'm happy to share it just because I know I'm not the only one right now either.
Oh yeah, for sure. I have found, my typical, the folks that I'm interviewing traditionally have been more in the STEM space, because that's what my primary show is, about and stuff like that. And I, learned from them that sometimes problems require creative solutions. And one thing that they had found is that they didn't realize that the broken parts of their robots were worth anything after they were done. And so they would, find that fans would pay so much money for these parts of their battle bots and stuff like that, and didn't know that that was a lucrative business. And I was thinking to myself, like, if you offered to say DM and be like, hey, if people want me to DM a game for them and you pay X number of dollars for me to DM this game, that that's something that I think people would be very interested in.
I have done that. So subscribers to my newsletter have recently gotten that opportunity, and I do like that too. Yeah, I'm just very open to. I don't know that that's a viable, sustainable business for me. But every once in a while, I think I would pop off and go, okay, like I'll run a game for some folks who want to get to know me. And I will say, like, it is delightful to get to know, the people who want to also know me, if that makes sense. Like I've always thought, oh, I'm on the internet, I'm curating who I am, so no one really knows who I am, and everyone gets the Amy that I think they should get. And then I've learned over the years that it's like, Amy, you're not hiding as much as you think you are. Like, so the people who are like, it doesn't matter, I just want to know Amy, I just want to hang out with her, be her friend or whatever, the people, it's usually, I would say, like 99% of the time, it's the people that I also want to hang out with. And it's a pretty one for one. So yeah, there's many. Look, I was also a recruiter for 9 years. If we're talking about old jobs, I was a recruiter for nurses in nursing homes. So I do have this like sales recruiter background. I've had other day jobs as well. Well, you would like this STEM person. I was a high school math tutor for a long time too. Because my twin sister is an engineer, and I would have been like a heavy like physics engineer. I just have that brain, and I would do. I mean, it's kind of, we just took different paths, but I feel like even in my stories, I'm like the logic maker. I'm like, all right, so how does this work? So I use the left brain a lot as well. So yeah, there's lots of things I could do. Also, I'm 38 now, and so I feel like the things I'm passionate about and how I want to serve people, and like what the skills that I have to offer, though it'll always be storytelling, and I like looking for new ways to use that as well. So we'll see what that looks like, and I'm not going to stop any of the creative stuff anytime soon. That'll be on the docket for a long time. It just feels like, okay, we're good there. I can always, go out for auditions and do commercials and be her, be that. And now, like, how do I want to really, really serve other people? That's kind of the question I've been asking myself.
That's awesome.
That's a long question, long answer. You didn't really ask that, but it's where I'm in my headspace. So we went there.
Hey, you're fine. I think that's an awesome way of thinking, because there's a lot of ways that can look. And even you're just bringing a smile to someone's face, like that's serving them in a way. So
absolutely. Oh, I think art is one of the best ways to serve people. I really do. I fundamentally believe that. And I call a lot of things art. There's so many, gosh, just to be the source of that, I've told so many people, I have a lot of friends who pro DM and they're charging. I'm like, go F off right now unless you up your prices. Like that, you're doing the wrong thing. They're like, no, but I'm not you, and people don't know me. And I was like, I don't care who you are. Like just to have internalized the rule book is value. Not to mention, I know you and I know you're providing like an amazing experience. Like that's money, baby. And same thing with a song. You write a song, charge for it, baby. That's like it's art, and it's like people equal art. People equal art. Art equals money. I just will never, you will never change my mind. That is what it is.
No, 100%. There is absolutely value in that. And I think that that's really important to like, bring up as a topic. And then
I don't know how we got here. I'm sorry, Christine. Anyway, do you want to start the interview over? And we don't have to talk about how Amy Vorpahl is earning her money.
You are fine. You are fine. No, and one like probably the like kind of the thing that I want to, wrap this up on is I'm just curious if like in all of your time, doing D&D and running games and DMing, like what's the craziest story that you can think of something that's like happened in a game?
Yeah, playing for the guild was pretty shenanigan-y when I DM'd for them. It was just like real. I mean, it was like, all right, don't prepare too much. Like really don't prepare too much because this is gonna go nuts real fast. I do tell this, maybe this will be crazy enough, but like having a character die was pretty crazy. It came out of left field, and like it made me it was on a stream, so there's a meme out there of it. It was on a saving throw stream, and we were playing a Fantasy Flight game, Star Wars, and I don't remember which game it actually was, but it was one of the Star Wars games. And I had told the DM, like we had been playing for weeks and weeks and weeks, months even. And I was like, well, it's coming up where I won't be able to play anymore. And it's like, great, on the stream, do you want to call this like big stream your last one? I was like, okay, sure, that sounds good. That'll be my last one. So then my character dies, and I didn't know that he had even planned that. There were roles to make, and it wasn't like it still was kind of out of nowhere. Like I just wasn't. And he was like, well, I thought, I wanted to put you up against this like thing. But anyway, it doesn't matter. On the stream, you see my face change through all of the stages of grief within a minute. So it's like shock, and then denial, and then bargaining, and then no, and then sadness, and like and then acceptance, like all of it. And I'm like crying but laughing, and like being like, it's on a stream, don't cry too much. And like, but it shook me so hard. So I'm really glad that's on camera, because it was wild. It was absolutely like, what? And then beyond that, just little bits here and there that kind of aren't really worth talking about, little puns and characters and voices and weird stuff that's like, oh, I guess we're doing that now, so there.
It's funny though, because outsiders, they're like, oh, a character died. Like, it may not seem like a big deal to them, but I think when you play a game of D&D, at least it is for me, and I think for most people that I know that play it, when you create a character, it's like an extension of yourself. And so like it's a loss, like if something happens to that character.
Totally. And you just I thought I was just going to leave, and it was going to be like, my character Merce was just going to go on his way and have a life and, pursue his dreams. And it's like, he died. Like I didn't think me leave. I wouldn't have left the show. If that was that on the table, I renege what I said. I'm not going to leave now. I don't want him to die. Like, I don't want him to suffer the consequences of my actions. So yeah, I totally agree. It's hard. Don't recommend it. I have a song actually called The Worst of the Terrible Things, and it goes like, the worst of the terrible things in the world is watching your character die. And it's like this old folksy song, and you're sitting around a campfire, and it's like, there are seas that can swallow whole cities, my dear, and unnatural cracks in the earth. And it's just like, oh yes, there are horrible evils out there, but the worst of the terrible things is watching your character die. And it's like, yeah, that's I stand by that.
Absolutely. Yes, and thank you for including some of the song. That's
Oh
wonderful to like kind of
yeah.
tie into that story too. That's awesome.
Yeah. I love my music. It's very inspired by Dungeons and Dragons. My last album has a few more songs that are just kind of random. And for the Dropout fans, one of them is called Tornado Jail. And that is based on the kind of meme first episode of Breaking News that I was on, where I made the face, and I wrote a song about kind of a tongue-in-cheek what was going through my head when I started laughing, imagining a tornado going to jail. The song makes almost no sense, but it's a fun song. Like it goes, tornado jail, I wonder if he'll ever make tornado bail. And it goes on from there, but yeah.
That is fantastic.
It
I
made
love
the
it.
album. Yeah, needed to honor it in some way. That was my ode to my dropout situation.
Absolutely. Let the fans know where they can follow you if they don't already know.
Yeah, the best way. So I'm at Vorpahl Sword, which is my real last name. My entire family has the name Vorpahl. I'm just the first one to take up the mantle of D&D playing. And so it's at Vorpahl Sword on Instagram and TikTok, and also on Twitter/X, but I'm posting a lot less there these days. The other place where you can find me, and I write a monthly newsletter where I get as pretty much kind of as vulnerable as I was on this podcast about my personal life and what I'm going through. Always in a fun way. No one ever needs to necessarily worry about me, but I love writing these newsletters because it gives context to the very curated and sleek and shiny social media posts. So you can go there at amyvorpahl.com/subscribe. And yeah, it's just a window into my real life. And what I love about that, it's free. It's just a monthly newsletter that I just send out to tell people what I'm up to. It kind of helps me as well go like, oh, you know what, last month I did do something. So just a little time capsule for myself as well. But what I love is that because I do get, I mean, I wouldn't say it's vulnerable, it's or intimate. It's like I'm candid. I would say I'm candid. Nothing feels like, oh no, I don't want them to know this, but okay, I'll just tell them anyway. It feels like, no, I'm just being like a person. And same on this podcast. I'm like, well, that's where my mind's at, and I don't mind people knowing it. But doing that inspires people to write back to me, and then I hear about their lives and what they're going through, and they're just as candid and just as sometimes even more intimate. I'm like, oh my gosh, like gosh, we're just all the same, man. Christine, we're just all the same. We're all going through some stuff. So, good stuff too. Like people have been like, I'm getting married, I'm playing your song at the wedding. It's like, what? Oh my God. Like this is so cool. And everyone's got, I don't know. Sometimes it's just, oh, your turn to go through some stuff. And I just love being kind of the source of that. I don't know that I think you and I, like in the arts, are pretty used to having like this emotional intelligence and freedom to be like, I'm just who I am. But I think for most people, it's like giving them an outlet to be like, no, you can write an email and it can say all the things you want to say. And they write it to me. And I'm very flattered. That's how I take it. It's just like, wow, I'm so honored that you're trusting me with this information that is extremely private and yeah, like intimate. It feels really good. So I have that, and you definitely don't have to reply to me, but I read everything and I reply back, and it's amyvorpahl.com/subscribe. There
Yeah,
you go.
absolutely. And I mean, I think you bring up a good point, is that, people on TV are normal people too. And I think when you can make that connection with a fan, it's really meaningful. I mean, I'll just share this real quick, because
Please.
you know her, but I went to a con a couple of months ago, and Felicia was there, and I brought my daughter with me, and my daughter is very like, shy, backwards. It's hard. Like she's very scared and doesn't even want to talk to people. And Felicia was the only person that she was willing to talk to like that whole time, because she
Wow.
like listened to her and heard her and was asking her questions. And that was just like an amazing thing to me. And I was very thankful for that.
Oh yeah. Felicia's the best. She's an inspiration to me as well. So this all tracks. I love this. She's in real life, she's exactly the same as you encountered her. So, but I continue to strive to be like that as well. Just being out here, being a human, prioritizing connection, friendship, joy, love for everyone, all of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
All of those things.
All those things.
Well, for fans that are watching, definitely, follow Amy, check out what she's into. Because it's a lot of cool stuff. And like this podcast, subscribe, give it some love, and keep following, and hope to do more of these and have some more cool folks on the show to talk about all of the nerdy things that we love. So keep watching, and we will see everyone next time on the show.
Thank you so much, Christine. This was so fun.